It is episode 143 of Left Side Heavy, the podcast, presented by Blue Wire. It's your boy, Jevin Lefebvre. And of course, we have co host Hayden Barton as well, with special guest, reoccurring guest, fellow Saints fan of Hayden Barton, Brett Roselle. How's it going, my brother? How we doing?
Going good, boys. Good to be back. Good to see both of you. Hope your day's going well. I'm thrilled to be here. Chat some sports.
Dude, it's been a while since you've been on, man. It's a pleasure to have you back.
Thanks, bro.
But how have you been enjoying the latter half of the football season and wild card weekend so far? How did you feel about it?
I've been enjoying it, man. All my wounds have healed after the fantasy football season. Lost a real tough one in the finals, so I kind of recovered from that, and then I was able to sit down and watch a lot of football this past weekend. I didn't have a lot of social engagements, which was nice. So I thought it was a successful wild card weekend. Some of the matchups were better than I thought they'd be on paper, and I was highly entertained all weekend with some good football. So excited to chat about that for sure.
Love to hear that. Did you have a good New Year's and stuff and Christmas holiday with the family and everything like that?
I did, man. Super busy, and back on the treadmill now, as you know, with with BCIT. But no, it was a good break, buddy, and all systems are go again. And heck, it's a good time to be a sports fan, and I'm already getting excited for baseball season. So it's nothing but good things over here.
You got a kid. How's the kid?
He's good, man. He's like a year and a half now, and he's outside of the house right now. So hopefully there's some peace and quiet for your pod. But he's good, dude. He's like racing around. He's throwing things. He's running. He's tough to. He's keeping me on my toes. That's for sure.
Saw on your Instagram that he's getting into lacrosse, practicing his lacrosse chops or some shit.
Yeah, he
I
comes right.
saw.
Honestly, me and my old man are big lacrosse guys, so I'd have no qualms with him getting into that sport. I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Is he getting into a lot of athletics and stuff like that, or is he kind of just playing with whatever?
I mean, I like to think he's going to be an all-star pitcher. He's really working on his arm. Uh, so, without forcing him into anything, I'd be thrilled if he took to the bump at some point. So far, he looks like he likes pitching, so I'll foster that if I can.
Hey man, it's never too early, man. It's never too early. You never know who's watching, especially in this time. They're scouting fucking 10-year-olds.
Yeah, the CHL is trading 9-year-olds, so I guess he's
Yeah,
not that far off.
he's gonna be a mini tykes with a scholarship to fucking like Ohio State or some shit.
I'd love that. You pad my wallet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the best job in the world is a starting pitcher.
Oh,
So,
I think so. 4 days off,
hey, you
then
play
you
every
just go
5 days and you
there.
get 20 schmilly a year. It's not a bad, not a bad gig, hey? But we got a pretty big episode this week, so we may as well get started. And we got Gino. Well, we're gonna start in with some tough news out of the hockey world. Canucks legend and just hockey legend overall, Gino Odjick, unfortunately passes away at the age of 52. He got diagnosed just under 9 years ago with AL amyloidosis, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it's a rare terminal disease that produces abnormal protein deposits in the heart, basically hardening the muscles, restricting its job to keep you alive. But he was a fifth round pick in the 1990 draft. He was basically Pavel Bure's security guard, but he's just powerful enforcer. He had 137 career points in 600 games, but he had 2,500 penalty minutes. He was just um a great tidbit here. He was a role model for the indigenous community. He won a sports award from Inspire. It's an indigenous national charity that invests in the education of First Nations, the Inuit and Métis people. So he was just he was the people's person. Um, he was a legend all around. Brett, how did you handle the news that um Gino Odjick passed? Because I mean, it was like taking information that his time was up, but it was just nobody was really going to be ready when the news broke. So, um, how did you feel when you found out about his unfortunate passing?
Yeah, for sure. Sad news. Really sad news. Anytime a member of the hockey community passes, and certainly early at 52. To be completely honest, of course, like it's important context for your listeners because I know a lot of them are local Vancouverites. I grew up in Calgary, so I'm from the Calgary market, and I lived in the Winnipeg market for a couple of years. So I don't know Gino Oljic as well as people who have been here their whole life might. But I'm familiar with the player, familiar with his tough brand. I actually went and watched some of his scraps on YouTube this morning, and yeah, that guy was a real handful out there. And actually, it was his first NHL game. What was that? Who did he fight? Stu Grimson. He fought two people in his first NHL game and just like set the tone for the rest of his career. But honestly, I was doing some research on him this morning, boys, and I remember him on the ice, but I was more blown away with just his commitment to this community, like coming back to Vancouver and living here for the rest of his life and continuing to be involved in Indigenous activities. And I was reading that he managed like a golf academy, and he was just clearly really involved in this community. And this city left like obviously a lasting impression on him. So I totally understand why people are pretty moved by his passing around here, and mad respect for Gino, the person, as the hockey player.
Yeah, it's always a tough break, but hey, I don't know if you, as like you're kind of just breaking into like learning about hockey and just like everything, following it more and more. I'm not too sure if you have big enough knowledge on Gino, but if you've done research, how did you feel about just like the legend unfortunately passing?
Well, oh my God, frog in my throat. Well, I actually remember very vividly of when he went into the hospital in like what 2014, 15, somewhere around there for his like first instance
Yeah.
with this sort of thing. And it's just kind of like back then, again, wasn't a big hockey guy. I was like, oh, that sucks to hear. Um, but it wasn't like on my radar, you know. But now hearing the stories come out and like how much of a, like Brett was saying, just a giver in the community, and especially in the First Nations community, that's just that's just a legend, like a walking legend right there. And for him to be taken away at an age of 52 is so tough, like just for anyone to experience that, let alone everyone in this community of Vancouver. So it really sucks. But also yesterday, actually, a lot of the radio I listened to is Fox. They were telling stories about him and all of that. And even my mom was like, did you hear who died? Pavel Bure's goon died. And I'm like, fuck, if that's how people remember him, legend. Absolute legend.
Yeah, it was yeah, he's just a legend across, and I'm more than happy to bring my dad, Paul Lefebvre, living legend of the Left Side Heavy podcast. But Dad, I want to ask you, um, you've been you're obviously following the Canucks for a just hockey in general when Gino was at his peak for the Canucks, and you were living in the legend of Gino Odjick. How did you feel when you heard the news break of um Odjick, and like how did he kind of mean to you as a Canucks fan and hockey fan in general?
Um, well, I grew up. I'm 60 years old, so I went through the 70s and 80s, and I always appreciated a guy who didn't choose his fights. He fought everybody, and nobody did that quite like Gino. I mean, there was many tough guys, but nobody was like him when it came to doing what it took, because I guess you have to have a fair degree of skill to get to the NHL in general. They just don't bring on fighters, but to get some of that skill and to have the balls to fight everybody in an era of Probert, Semenko, Ty Domi, all those guys, and just his sense of humor. He's quite a funny guy. I've heard a couple funny stories I can share with you if you want about when we all got introduced to a guy like Gino Odjick, and just so many heartwarming stories about what kind of man he was off the ice too.
Please share those stories if you have the time and if you're able to share. I think we'd love it.
Well, my favorite story of Gino, and this was told, it either had to do with his coach or Trevor Linden, and Gino's rookie year was when there was a conflict over in the Middle East called the Gulf War, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. There was some guy who was the ruler, dictator, quite a bad man named Saddam Hussein. You can look him up on Wikipedia if you want. And he was a pretty evil dictator, and he was the leader of Iraq. They invaded a country and America went to war. And during Gino's rookie year, someone put a sign up at the Pacific Coliseum, Gino is tougher than Saddam. And Gino looked up and read the sign, and he turned to his coach and said, "What number's Saddam? I want to fight him." And the whole bunch just started killing themselves. And when we heard that, I mean, we loved them all to begin with, but we loved them even more after that. And just the very fact that when his best friend was Pavel Bure, and when Pavel came, he was just this young guy who was destined for stardom. And he could have had the pick of the town when it came to people to hang around, and he was just drawn to Gino because Gino didn't really treat him special. He just treated him like a normal buddy. And Pavel picked up on that right away, I think. And there's probably guys out there that have got a few stories about that, but when got a guy like Pavel who probably got weighted on hand and foot because he was Pavel Bure, and he says, "No, I'll just hang with Gino." And they were lifelong friends. And there was a time when Pavel had retired that he invited him over to Russia to play in this charity game, right? Because Gino wasn't a superstar, but he was his best friend. So he said, "Okay, well, if you can get me over there and pick me up at the airport, I'll come, Pav." And so Pavel went from Vancouver to Toronto to Montreal, flew over to some other place in Europe, and then onward to to Russia, right? I guess he landed in Moscow or whatever, and there was nobody there at the airport to pick him up. He had told one of his Russian teammates, Fedosov, to pick him up at the airport, and they forgot. So Gino's at the airport, according to the story. He's got nowhere to go. He doesn't know a thing to do. He doesn't speak the language. But one thing he remembered that Pavel told him was that in Russia, the KGB knows everything about you, right?
Yeah.
They're like the secret police. So he flagged down a cab and he said, "Take me to the KGB headquarters." And the guy goes, "No, you don't want to go there." And he goes, "Yeah, I do. I got a hockey game with Pavel Bure, and I don't know where he lives, but Pavel told me they know everything about everybody over here, so take me to the KGB headquarters." That guy dropped him off at the curb and took off. Gino went up to the front door of the KGB headquarters and he banged on it. And this guy comes to the front door with a machine gun and he says, "You guys know everything about everything. I need to know where Pavel lives." He goes, "Who?" "Pavel Bure, you dumb fucking." He goes, "I'm here to play hockey with him." He says, "You guys know everybody over here." and they slammed the door, and he banged it again, and the guy opened up, and he says, "I'm serious, man. You got to take me to Pavel's house." And they just started laughing. He says, "Go, okay, get in here." They knew who Pavel Bure was. He was like a star, and they didn't know who Gino was, but any guy with the size of stones to come banging on the door. There's Gino. Just AGB headquarters.
That's insane.
You can imagine how, and like I said, man, boys, that guy fought everybody, and he had endurance.
Yeah,
like all the great fighters, they could throw him, but they could throw him for a long time. So
yeah, you can tell how much of like the impact he made on the league when every single fighter on Twitter and any sort of media they can get their hands on that were paying their respects to Gino Odjick. So it's not like he was just a legend in the Vancouver community. He was a legend in the hockey community.
absolutely, you know, good people make an impact wherever they go. And I think after he left, and you guys might be able to correct me on this, I think he went to the Islanders and then maybe a different team, and then he ended with Montreal, I think.
I think he had stints in Detroit and Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was I know the Islanders, and then maybe he went to a different team and then finally to Montreal. And you know, even the Habs put out a short blurb. You know, he was only with us for a bit, but rest in peace, Gino. So I think he really made an impact. Hell, he even stopped by your game watching.
Yeah, I remember that.
So sounded like a really good guy, and kind of glad that he started. And most of his 8 out of 12 years were in Vancouver.
Yeah. Well, Dad, I really appreciate you coming on and giving some stories about Gino Odjick, because we wanted to pay his respects, because he was just a Vancouver legend and just a legend to everyone else. And so I really appreciate you phoning in and
well, I'm glad
giving us a few stories.
Thanks for reaching out to me. And yeah, every once in a while, it's a shame that I have to remember a good chunk of my youth by a guy passing. Sometimes that's the way it goes when you get a little older. You don't really pay attention until the guy's gone. And heard he was in poor health, but now he doesn't have to go through that anymore. So anyways, thanks a lot for asking my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later, and thanks again.
Okay. See you, boys.
See ya.
Adios. Yeah, kind of just a friendly reminder of how fan bases will never forget those enforcers that protected their stars, right? Like, you know, I can think of a few too, where it's just like those players who you love them so much during that time, and they're so important to that team chemistry. And that role, as we all know, has changed so much. But like, fan bases don't forget that kind of like commitment to their club, right? Like, it's cool to see, because we won't see that with some of like our current NHL generations. That role has just changed so much. But
yeah, because you need those guys to have your stars back and stuff, just to like keep the team together. Like, if you got to protect your players, right? And you got to have someone that will go to war for anyone on the team, and that builds chemistry and team morale. So it doesn't surprise me and you always see in games, like any fan base you watch, and if there's an enforcer and they're fighting, everyone, they hit their top 3 players on the team, at least 75% of them will have the top enforcer in their top 3.
Yeah,
because of how much they just because of how much they make an impact like off the score sheet, right? They're a team they're a player you never really want to lose. Like players like Alex Burrows, Maxime Lapierre, Rick Rippon, like those guys were huge for the Canucks, and everyone just loved watching them because of how much of a pain in the ass they were. But you need some of those guys, right? So
yeah, you really do. Hey, you saw last year what happened when the Rangers didn't have any players like that, and they got shoved around.
Oh yeah,
there was no one to stand up for that team, and they went out and fixed it in the offseason. Like, you still need those guys in the dressing room even today. So
even Tampa, when they got pushed around in their when they got swept by Columbus, they didn't really have any of those bullies on the fourth
Mhm.
line. They had just a bunch of skill players, but they realized that playoff hockey is more than skill. They need those guys that are not going to get pushed around.
Every year you
And
see what the Pat Maroons, Corey Perrys, those
yeah,
guys that gravitate to those teams that have a chance to win, right? And that's why.
yeah,
It's super important. But anyway,
yeah. But rest in peace to Gino Odjick.
yeah.
Big words as my dad ended off. It's sad that he's gone, but I'm happy that he's no longer in pain and suffering anymore. Um, so rest in peace to Gino. Thank you for blessing the Canucks with your presence and all the people outside of the hockey community, the indigenous community, and just everywhere in general. You made a huge impact for everyone. So rest in peace and prayers up to the family. But we'll stay with the Canucks and we'll go to the darker side of the moon. The drama surrounding this team has been terrible. This management with Rutherford and Alvin was supposed to revive the Canucks and all the mistakes that Jim Benning had put his name on. But in hindsight, it's almost looking like to not be Jim Benning's fault at all. It's more so the guy up top, Francesco Aquilini, has started to build a reputation that he is the reason why this team is in the steepest downfall in maybe franchise history. I think this is the worst situation we have ever been in. Just in terms of team expectations to team performance to contract situation, salary cap situation, mismanaging players, assets, development, the whole 9 yards. I think we're going in the completely wrong direction with the wrong mindset as well. But overall, Hayden, I'm going to start with you. Without going too deep into the specifics of what we are going to get into, which is the Jim Rutherford press conference, we come on to this podcast every single week, and we usually do a quick 15 to 20-minute recap of the Canucks week of games. I'm not even going to touch that because I'm just not even going to bother, because I think this one can basically summarize everything. I mean, we had a massive win against Carolina, comeback win. We almost came back against Tampa. 2 great back-to-back games.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit against 2 top of the league teams we really had no business winning, but we almost edged out. It was great games from our guys. That's a quick 2-minute roundabout our week. That's what I'm leaving it at. But this press conference and all the drama surrounding it takes that away. But without going into specifics, what have been your thoughts on everything surrounding this organization just in the past couple weeks? As heavy of a question that is, but
yeah, no, the past couple of weeks, I mean, what sums it up more other than the fact that it's a dumpster fire? Like there's badly managed teams, and then there's the Canucks. You know what I mean? Like we've hit a new low into the point where if we're not even talking about the whole Rutherford like press conference, because that was a fucking joke. The only good thing about this is like we have a couple good players. and even that is in question. But without trying to like get it back into one thing, I did have one more thing about like the Gino Odjick thing. And with
please.
the win in Carolina, Ethan Bear, when he scored, he said something pretty touching about that. It's
Yeah.
like I felt like he was with me.
Because he scored like seconds or minutes after they
After it was
announced
announced.
Gino's death. Yeah.
And like that, I don't know, but like that kind of just gave me chills, right?
Yeah.
That was the one thing. But other than that,
Because I do want to say, because Ethan Bear is I'm not 100% sure.
is part of the indigenous
Yeah,
community.
he's part of the indigenous community. I'm not 100% sure what exactly he is, but obviously Gino Odjick has been a massive mentor in his life.
Yes.
So that is what makes it so touching. But yeah, carry on, Hayden.
But like I don't want to try and stir that in with how much of a shit pile that the Canucks are right now, but at least there was that sort of like that beautiful moment in this fucking pile of trash that
Yeah.
we are putting ourselves to watch 2.5 hours of our life every other night, it seems like.
Yeah.
And no answers, just more questions.
Yeah, it was basically like, yes, we fucking know. You said that at the beginning of the year, but what about you, Brett? Just everything surrounding. We kind of touched on it yesterday, leaving class, but you, like you mentioned, you came from Winnipeg and Calgary and stuff like that. So you're just kind of breaking yourself into this Vancouver market. You're 2 years into it, so you are starting from the fucking bottom in the Vancouver market because I don't think it can get much worse than this.
Yeah, I think I kind of like entered the hornet's nest a little bit.
Yeah. When it's pissed off.
Yeah, which is it is honestly it's a unique perspective because like I said, like I do grow up in Calgary, and obviously those fan bases can't stand each other. I have lots of really good Canuck friends and Calgary Flame friends, but of course they just can't stand each other. But I think the one thing that comes to my mind is just unprecedented. I've just never seen anything like it. Um, like I lived through the Jay Feaster dark days when I was in Calgary, and he was incompetent, and there was challenges getting out of that. But I've really never seen anything like this. I just think that all the layers of it, from the top of the organization to the head coach to the on ice to the contracts, like it's just totally unprecedented on so many levels. And we'll peel back the onion a little bit here because I certainly have some opinions on some of the nitty gritty things, but I've just never seen anything like it, and I'm legitimately curious, really intensely curious about the deadline, and like all the writing is on the wall that there's going to be some tectonic shifts happening, and I'm genuinely curious to see what those end up being, because this market is frothing at the mouth, and the bright lights are even brighter. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, so I want to start by saying this is where I want to start off. Justice for Bruce Boudreau, because in no way does someone deserve what he's going through.
Yeah.
He is being used as the scapegoat for a poorly put together franchise and team. He has been on the job for no longer than 13 months. And now he is being labeled as the reason why this team has been shit. And he is still the coach while they're talking about replacing him, which I think is completely unfair to him.
It's unprofessional.
In no situation should someone ever go through that. I'm not too sure if it was after practice, post-game media, whatever, or just media availability on an off day. But he was asked the question about the rumors surrounding him and his job. And he said, I'm just waking up and doing my job until they tell me not to. And if you listen to him, maybe I'll put the clip within the audio and the video, like within the podcast, but he just sounded so defeated. And it sounded like he was completely clocked out of this team and how this team is ran. The rumor surrounding the Canucks is that Rick Tocchet is to be replacing him. Rick Tocchet has connections with Rutherford and Alvin from their Pittsburgh days, when I think Tocchet was an assistant coach to Bilesmar Sullivan, one of the two, not too sure. But I think this is incredibly unfair for Boudreau. I think he's being used as a scapegoat. I think there's plenty more wrong that are in front of his coaching. But Brett, I'll go to you first. What have been your opinions on this whole Tocchet in for Boudreau rumor mill while Boudreau is still coaching the team?
Well, I think it's just cruel to Bruce. I think it's just unprofessional and cruel, and I think you can see it in his body language. You can hear it in his rhetoric when he speaks to the media. The one thing that I'll say about it, and I think it's just so Bruce Boudreau in a good way, he's always been a bit of a warrior coach, right? He doesn't look like the atypical hockey coach. He's had a really successful career. and just his like ability and willingness to keep showing up for work, like that quote indicated. And all hockey fans are witnessing what's going on. And again, I've never seen anything like this. It's very unprecedented, like what's going on with the Canucks right now, where I feel like Bruce's stock is actually increasing in the public eye, like in the hockey fans' eye. Everyone sees what's going
100%.
on with this, and they're kind of like they're siding with Bruce because he's not a bad coach. He's swimming way upstream. And I've just never seen anything like it where the team and the organization are have significant issues to overcome. But this head coach that's on the precipice of being fired, it actually feels like his value is increasing somehow throughout this month. And I think that's just like a fascinating little like circumstance in all this craziness because I really like Bruce Boudreau and the players are still playing for him. And I think that's the one thing. And I was watching football, but I went back and watched the highlights of the Canucks Hurricanes game, and those players are playing real hard for Bruce. And that's the proof in the pudding. That's all I need to see. Like that speaks volumes to me. So it's this is a bigger issue, and I'll pass it back to you boys. But it's just cruel. Like, oh.
Yeah, Hayden. Do you think like because we Canucks brought on Mike Yeo as an assistant, who has been a head coach prior many times. He's not doesn't have the best track record of being a head coach, but a lot of people were saying because Bruce Boudreau was coming into this season without a contract for next season, because they wanted to see how he'd play out before they extended him. A lot of people were saying they brought in Mike Yeo just in case Boudreau wouldn't last, that he could be the interim until they find a replacement. That's what a lot of people's theories were. Do you think that they should just rip the Band-Aid off with Boudreau instead of keeping him in the situation and then put Yeo as the interim tag until they bring in Tocchet? Or what's your opinion on what they should be doing instead of what they're doing now?
Everyone in upper management should just fuck off for even thinking of that. And it's gonna be like what Ian says, man. Aquilini just has to sell the team, sell it to someone who actually gives a shit. Like this
Was
is
a brain.
this is terrible. Like we sound like a broken record, but every time something new comes out with how mismanaged this team is. And like Brett was saying, to blame it on like all of it on Boudreau and to try and use him as a scapegoat is just not the way to do this. You can see these players are playing for Bruce. Like people like Bruce. And everyone's just saying, oh yeah, Bruce is the problem. No, it's not. He's not the problem. The problem is the fact that we have Oliver Ekman-Larsson taking up a huge fucking chunk of our salary cap, and he's not even a top 20 defenseman.
Dude, he got
like,
health
ever.
bombed. Anyone getting paid 7.5 should not be getting health bombed. Like,
no, like, yeah, why was he scratched? And then like even when you sent like that picture in Messenger, and it's like Bo Horvat was gonna get scratched, right? He didn't though, right? Because I saw him playing that night.
He didn't get scratched. He was on the pregame healthy scratch list, but I don't know what that really entailed. A lot of people were thinking maybe there's a trade set up with the two of them, but I think it was just maybe he was maybe he was a game time decision, maybe minor illness, something, but he ended up playing.
Yeah, no, which thank God, but like, no, he it's just such a facepalm, man. And I, like Ian said last week, you can't take anything the Canucks do seriously until something of higher management, even higher than management, changes.
Yeah.
Because us three are going to come back 7 days from now, and there's going to be another bomb dropped on Vancouver, and it's going to be like, well, what the fuck is this?
Or it's just going to be the same old fucking report we've been hearing for the past 6 months.
Exactly.
And
well, I think
Nothing's
the
gonna
reason
change.
there's like the fan base in particular is so fed up with it is because it really feels like this has been a coordinated attack from the get-go, right? Right from the season opening presser. There's been the dialogue surrounding the head coach has been right from the get-go. And I'm just willing to bet that Rutherford was told to push it in that direction right from the get-go. They were hedging their bets right from the get-go, in my humble opinion, that something like this would happen and they needed a face to put in front of it right from the season opening presser. And it was just like a bad look from the get-go, and they left themselves no room for any further error. It was just it was a bad right from the onset. So
well,
now
yeah,
the fruits of the happening.
because you think about like people are saying we should get a president of hockey ops because I think things are being handled much better when Lyndon was involved. And he said we should rebuild. We should make it a slow rebuild to do this properly. Aquilini said no. They parted ways. And then after a much needed president of hockey ops, Aquilini's like, we're gonna take our time in finding the right person. Fucking like 20 hours later, we're hiring Jim Rutherford because all this smoke is coming out on the Canucks and like how all these questions. And I'm sure Aquilini did it because he didn't want to be facing the media because he even knows that he's just a terrible look. And then throws Rutherford into the fire, makes him answer all the questions. Where the fuck is Alvin and all this shit too? He's the general manager. He should be answering these questions as well, but he's nowhere to be fucking found. Right? I'm guarantee you next game we'll see him in the press box doing absolutely fuck all, nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much shit going on, but I want to go over some of these points here because we can talk about this one topic for the entire podcast, but post game against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, or it was the game before Tampa Bay. Hughes on the Pearson injury after news came out that he will be out for the remainder of the season when he got hurt on November 9th versus Montreal, and he was projected to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He is projected to have a third surgery on his hand and is now out for the season. And Hughes' words said, Hughes, who one is not he doesn't necessarily speak out in the media. He's very to himself, very blunt answers, doesn't really give much. But he dropped the bomb in Hughes' perspective that the whole situation was not handled correctly. Now, Jim Rutherford then started an investigation with the NHLPA and the health and safety of the NHL and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts on the comments towards Pearson's injury not being handled and this weighing down the organization on top of everything? Hayden, I'll start with you.
There was so much shit about the management. I totally forgot the whole mismanagement of fucking players' health.
Yeah.
Like there's reports saying that he might not even play next year because of how many surgeries he'll need. Like this is no. Fucking kill me now, man. No, I hate it. You can go immediately to Brett with this because I am done with this shit.
Well, I think it just, to me, it speaks to the culture, right? Like if you have a player whose reputation is to not do something like this, and they're electing to go to the media as their channel to voice their frustrations, that's a culture issue, right? Because he's chosen not to go through the proper channels internally to try and deal with that because he doesn't have faith in them, right? So to me, that's the biggest issue that the Canucks have, is now this is a cultural issue within the organization. And we talking about the presser now, Jim was asked about that. Like, do you think you're going to have a hard time signing guys? And he said no. But the answer is yes. You got a culture problem. So you can't sit there and say that you're going to be able to sign big fish in the free agent market. Players are chatting. Everyone knows and is chatting about this kind of stuff. And Quinn is talking to his buddies on other teams, and they've got an issue on that front. So it's a culture problem, and Hughes just shone a light on it. And so we'll see what happens, but it's a big problem.
Yeah. Let's we'll go over a few more quotes that Rutherford bombed, then we can kind of all talk about it. He said a few things, saying as of the beginning of the year the team needs minor surgery, and then he upped the quote saying the team now needs major surgery.
Which there's so much irony baked into that based on what's going on.
They only added to the fire. Like, this team needs minor surgery, and then they continue to sign JT Miller to an 8-year extension, $8 million a year, and then Besser to a $6 million per year, and then not even trading Miller, not trying to trade Myers, not trying to trade OEL, like Pearson before he was hurt. Like, they signed Mikheyev as well to a 4-year, like $5 million a year. Like, yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Rutherford continued to say that he doesn't want to put this team into a rebuild. He would rather try and retool on the fly, which is exactly the fucking opposite of what we need. We tried retooling 3 times in the past decade, and that hasn't worked at all. He says that the team can turn it around in no more than 3 years, which is a fucking lie. There's just so much that needs to happen our way without giving up any picks and buying out really bad contracts that's going to fuck us for much longer down the road in order for us to turn around in 3 years. So that's not going to happen. According to them, they gave Horvat their best offer. They might give it one last kick at the can, but they're not too sure how it's going to handle, because he feels that they gave Horvat what they think is fair for what he's done as a Canuck, but it's under market for what he's done this year, which
makes
to
no
me
sense.
Doesn't fucking make sense at all. If anything, you just probably offered him like $6 million a year because that's all the cap space we have.
What player doesn't want their current year to count?
It's so dumb. Guy has 30 goals at the All-Star game, and it literally doesn't make sense. Like, how does we gave him what's fair for as a Canuck, which has been like what the 3 previous years have been like 35 goal paces. And then this year he's at 30 goals at the halfway point, but they're like, it's under market for this year. Like, I don't know. I don't really get it. The one thing I'll give Rutherford credit is that he didn't beat around the bush for any of the answers. Like, he answered questions. It's just like nothing's fucking changed, but like he did try to give honest questions. He said he was disappointed with what he's done so far. So at least he's kind of owning up to some of the shit, but like disappointed, like at least he's acknowledging that he's done a shit job since he's come in. He hasn't changed anything. He's made it worse. But like the team is fucked. We're stuck in no man's land. We're not going to be able to rebuild. He says we want the first overall pick, but we don't want to rebuild. Like, he literally said that. He's like, of course we want the first overall pick. Out of all years, this is the year you want it. And then like 2 seconds earlier, he was like, yeah, we don't want to rebuild. We'd rather retool. It's like, you can't get the first overall pick retooling, you dick. Like, figure it out. The guy has a cement for a skull. It's
like my knowledge right now. Like, he has my knowledge of how the NHL works. And it's like, this is how it should do it. It's like, no. Even I know.
I mean, again, I just can't help but think that he's being restricted in what he can actually do.
1000%. He said that. This is the last point. I'll have 2 more points, then I'll let it over to you guys. They said they're trying to work on an extension for Kuzmenko, which, if the numbers are correct, I wouldn't hate. Kuzmenko's been a star for us. Best case scenario, we trade him as a rental and then he re-signs in Vancouver, because I think he loves it here. I think he loves it, like Vancouver, not maybe the organization, but I think he just likes the place. But he also, it slipped my head. I can't remember what I was gonna say now.
Okay, well, let me ask the question, because I saw that Kuzmenko stuff. They were looking at him being a potential for an AAV of $6 million a year. 6 to 7 is what I saw, right? Mm-hmm. So do we think it's another Besser situation? Because he's shining his first year and then he gets this. What's it going to look like his second year? Do we think it's different? Personally, I think it's different. But what about you guys?
I personally think they're two different types of players, but I'll let Brett speak on it first.
Yeah, that's an interesting comp. That's an interesting comp. I agree. I think they're different. I think their styles of play are just a little, not total apples and oranges, but I think a little hard to truly make that comp.
Red apples to green apples.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, though, like the comparison to Besser aside, if they get this deal done right now, that's a win. Like that's a PR win right now. So I think in my opinion, if they find a way to get this worked out at a palatable cap hit amidst all of this, and they can secure something that they like going forward amidst all this kind of shitstorm, I think that'd be a huge PR win. So I hope it comes to fruition. I hope that they're focusing a lot of their attention on that because clearly Bo, like that's stagnant. So I'd love to see them accomplish this because it would be a win off the ice, which like is so desperately needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
About the comparable, I truly think that Kuzmenko can kind of create more on his own. So I would trust him with Besser's contract more than Besser with his own contract, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
He's a little less reliant on just his shot.
Yeah,
right?
like
That's-
Kuzmenko has speed, he has quickness, and like he can kind of stop on a dime, turn on a dime. He's just quicker. I think his shot is like the exact same as Besser's, if not better now. Because I think Besser with injuries and stuff like that has kind of unfortunately derailed a little bit. I will give Besser some credit though. I will give him some flowers. He's been showing a lot more dynamic ability the past couple of games, like driving the net and getting to the dirty areas. But I just trust Kuzmenko more on a consistent basis. If Besser's not scoring a goal, it's more than likely he's invisible, whereas Kuzmenko's kind of shown that he can kind of stand out a bit more.
Yeah.
But what would you guys be happy with a contract for Kuzmenko? He's 26 right now, turning 27 this year. What's something you would be happy with giving him?
I mean, I think the 6 to 7 million AAV for like 6 years, like, and then he'll be like 32, and let's say he keeps up. Vancouver's kind of in a place where it's like, okay, maybe our window's passed. We'll give him now to someone who will take on the last 2 years of his contract if need be. So you get at least 4 solid years of him. If you can get that done, I think that'd be a huge win.
Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable with something along those lines. It's kind of like a bridge deal, but it's a strange timing for the player because he's a little later in his
Yeah, he's
in his
26, so it's like
so he's kind of like I'm sure the organization would love to give him something a little more bridgy like that, but I'm sure the agent and their camp is thinking, well, shoot, like he's going to be over 30 on the back half of this deal. Let's get as much cash up front as we can. But it speaks to the one thing that I think Rutherford is onto, and this is like a league-wide thing that all management knows, is they're banking on the cap going up. Like obviously, a lot of teams are banking on the cap going up. What I think in his presser, he projected like 90 to 95,
which is like $12 million.
Yeah, and I mean that's lofty, and that's not guaranteed, right? Like you can't operate like that's a sure thing. But I mean, one thing I will say is it's encouraging to hear that they're like even with the JT Miller contract, like they are playing for. Like they're not totally short-sighted in the sense that they are, anticipating this expanded cap, circumstance. And I hope this deal plays into that as well. Because no matter what, if it's a rebuild or a retool, Jim's not wrong to say that you do need good players who are going to show up and still perform and get a few fans into the building as well. Yeah. So something in that range for Kuzmenko, I'd be happy with. Anything closer to 6.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
My ideal contract for him, because I think I saw the same reports from like Pierre LeBrun, who's a very trusted insider, is that they think that any start to a Kuzmenko negotiation for a contract extension, the number is going to start with 6 in terms of AAV. My hopeful thing is 5 years, like $6.5 million a year. that would be something I'd be really happy with.
Mhm.
I think anything over 5 is something I wouldn't be too ecstatic about, and maybe mid-load it where he's not making a ton off this hop. He's making most of his money in the 28 to 30 range, and then not making as much in his last year kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, that's something I'd be happy with. I wouldn't be, if the package is right, if we can get like a first round pick or something like that, I would be open to trading him because I think we need to build our prospects and draft capital, and we need to put our pieces in the right areas. And right now we need to build our prospect pool because it's terrible right now. And I think if the offer's right, trade him. But if not, then I think a 5-year deal at no more than 7 would
Yeah.
be, I'd be happy with.
Yeah, and I think a lot of clubs are finding themselves with these tough like evaluations when a player has like rapidly broken out, and like you see players like Tage Thompson, where you can see that like if it hits and that breakout is sustainable, you look like such a genius, right?
Yeah.
But there is that chance where it's just a kind of not a flash in the pan, but just it doesn't. It's just the unknown of running a sports organization like this. But I think they have to invest in this kind of player. Like they can't not at this junction.
Yeah, no, I agree. But we'll branch off the Canucks right now because there's gonna be a lot more news that comes out. But it's just I think we're in the worst spot of all time where the management is a dumpster fire, like Hayden said, the coaching situations surrounding Boudreaux. And it's not like we're the Blackhawks where like we're almost a surefire for Bedard. We're in no man's land. We're like we'll go on 2-game heaters, 5-game skid, win loss, 2-game skid, 4-game win streak. Like we can't find a direction where we want to go, which is so frustrating as a fan. Before the New York Rangers started popping off, they sent a letter. I think Chris Drury sent a letter to their fan base, posted on social media. This is our plan. We're going on a full rebuild. We're going to suck for the next 2 years. Be prepared because this is our plan. We want to rebuild for the future. And now they're one of the top teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They built their prospect pool, and now everything's flourishing. Right?
Yeah.
They traded for young guys and kind of bet on them for cheap. But the Canucks, Aquilini's 1 year of a 2-round playoff run, 1-round playoff revenue is more important than 5 years of consistent playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Real
super
quick,
frustrating.
one thing I wanted to throw in just really quickly because I was so blown away by it. The presser with the 2 doctors.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that where an organization is bringing doctors up to like defend this situation. The whole thing I found so strange. It's a spicy media environment. Like the questions are hot, and these doctors are given jargony, like process-oriented responses that no one cares about. Like they weren't answering any questions. Why even do that? You
Yeah.
know, like I don't understand the purpose of it. Like it was, if you're gonna do that, at least have them give us some information that we care about.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
and the only other point I was gonna make is it's just the like byproduct of this circumstance. But like Tanner Pearson isn't the first injury to be misdiagnosed in pro sports, right? Like this does happen from time to time. Like these injury timelines are not set in stone. But yet again, I've never seen a response. And obviously something funny happened here, so it's not like unjust. But it's just like I don't know, being a Saints guy, like I think of Michael Thomas and like how many changes to his injury timelines. And there's never been like this visceral response from a fan base because it's just like the expectations for honesty and truth and like what you just alluded to with the Rangers, this fan base is like begging for it and they're just not giving it. And it sucks.
I would rather just them say we're gonna suck for 5 years. We're gonna try to get picks, and we're going to not necessarily intentionally tank, but we're not gonna try and win. If we win games, fine, but we're going to build towards the future. Chicago literally set their barn on fire. They're like, we want to rebuild, but they went on to trade DeBrincat. They traded Doc. They offloaded their pieces because they're like, look, they're valuable right now, and we're gonna waste 6 years of them.
Yeah.
And then once we're good, they're either gonna want out or they're not gonna be as valuable anymore.
Yeah.
We're gonna trade them now, get picks, whatever.
They're so committed to their rebuild that they're
Exactly.
keeping NHL ready prospects down.
100%.
They're ready. We're like,
Yeah, and Canucks Aquilini needs to bite the bullet, forget about his old mindset of wanting 1 year of a playoff run, and we need to smarten the fuck up and just offload. Right now, in my opinion, the only untouchables are Pettersson and Hughes. I think you need some building blocks, and I think Pettersson, if he
you could get like a king, like defensemen are so important. I mean, I'd even say cut it off at Elias, and Pettersson is the one, because Quinn might be the one that could get you the package that you need to actually hit a reset. He's the one player at a primo position that could maybe do it.
Yeah, and so who knows? But it's just terrible. I just hate being in like no man's land. I'd rather be, just go to the bottom. But I want to stay in the Pacific because I think the Seattle Kraken need their flowers, and I'm not saying that they haven't been getting it. They have been getting it, but I just want to add more flowers to the bouquet because they just went on to become the first NHL team in NHL history to sweep a road trip of 7+ games. They won every single game. They handed the Boston Bruins their first regulation loss of the season at home,
which is crazy.
And in a shutout fashion. Martin Jones has been unbelievable. This Eli Tolvanen kid, who they picked up off waivers from Nashville, 22 teams. Hayden, 22 teams passed over this kid, and he has 7 points in 9 games with 5 goals. Matty Beniers is playing with he's tripping over his hog right now. He's just playing unfucking believable. Jared McCann, former Canuck, is a franchise player for them. Burakovsky, Schwartz, Eberle, like their pieces are playing so well. And like, what have been your thoughts on, like, I have my notes here. You saw the Kraken are cracked out right now because they're playing
cracked
fully, like they're electric right now. But Hayden, what have been your thoughts on just the news surrounding Seattle, because they've taken a massive jump from last year?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's kind of funny because last year we were saying, oh yeah, Seattle probably not going to get it going for a couple years. They're a new team. Vegas was lucky. No, Seattle is doing it right. They made everyone think they had nothing, but then they've done so much off-season work. Their management is so much better than anyone else's in the league, and their players are playing like
for each other.
Exactly. They're all playing like they've known each teammate from like a childhood friend. You know what I mean? They just have that connection.
Yeah.
And nothing that Seattle has done has been so bad this year where it's a distraction. Everything that they've done is good. They started off slow, which is completely true, but they have been, like you said, they've been on an absolute heater. First and only team to ever win a 7 game road streak. Like, that's fucking incredible.
Yeah. You don't often see that, like, at all. Like, even a 3-game road trip, you rarely see a sweep happen.
Exactly.
So, well, it's usually baked into what the coach speak, right? Like, even if you go 500 on a tough road trip at some points in the season, that's viewed as a successful road trip, right? To come in.
Oh, yeah.
sweep it all away is nuts. And what that does to a locker room, like
Oh
heading
my
towards
God.
the the push here. I mean, you just feel like you're invincible, right? Like that's a cool story right now with the Kraken. The one thing that pops out with the Kraken though is like their their shooting percentage is really high right now. Like
And their goals
it's
for is really good, but their goals against isn't the best
yeah.
either.
Like I want to see the Kraken come playoff hockey because I think they're looking like a really good regular season team right now who can shoot the puck really well, and the sticks are hot right now. So I want to see what the Kraken look like when the sticks cool off a bit and they get into a 7-game series with someone. I think that's when we'll really get a sense
Yeah.
of what they look like. But I love these kind of stories where like the fourth line is scoring just as much as the second line, and you got this even distribution. I love those kind of team
Yeah, like
stories.
Daniel Sprong on Seattle, I'm pretty sure that's his name. He has 26 points, 13 goals, 13 assists as a fourth liner. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, that must just be the tightest locker room. Like
Oh,
it's just
it's
gold
great.
seat.
And you know what they have? They have a wicked home crowd, wicked fan base. No, if Climate Pledge Arena is approaching the top of the list in terms of the NHL of last places I want to play as a home, as a road team. Like they're just absolutely insane, and they have cap space.
Yeah.
So the deadline, it's no surprise that Horvat is linked to Seattle because why wouldn't you want to add him to your team?
Yeah. Jordan Eberle is the oldest dude on that team.
He's like what, 28? I don't even
Yeah.
know. But like he's probably in his 30s, but I don't
He's in
actually
his
know.
early
But
30s now. I actually went to university with his wife, Lauren. So he's around the same age as as me, I think, which ages me a bit. But yeah, man, like that team is young and like ready to rock and roll for like
yeah.
years to come. Like what a fun spot to be in with money in your pocket entering the trade deadline.
And they're doing this all without their number 4 overall pick, Shane Wright. Like he's developing in the minors like they're supposed to.
Yeah, and they were
Like
criticized for how they handled him earlier on, but now it's again like Ronnie Francis.
well, I mean, they did
He's
handle him incorrectly. I think they shouldn't have scratched him for 6 games. They should have just either given him more minutes or sent him down.
valid.
I still think they handled it poorly, but at least they sent him down and they didn't just
Totally.
keep him
Like
up here not playing.
exactly. Like the arc of their plan was still like
Yeah,
in the right place.
yeah. They just I think should have acted on it quicker.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
But no, Seattle is just I hate it because of the newfound Canucks rivals, but I'm looking forward to see if they can continue what they're doing going forward because who knows, maybe they with their goaltending woes, maybe they trade for like someone like Marc-Andre Fleury or someone with some playoff experience for a run, or maybe strengthen up their decor a little bit, right? Like there's always someone who approaches um the like trade bait board at the deadline. Maybe McDonough isn't doing the greatest in Nashville. Maybe they take a sweep for him. He's was vital to Tampa Bay's playoff run. So Seattle, like they're in a good spot. They're riding the hot hand. They're riding their hot hand right now, and going into the deadline, it's just like it's a prime position to add to what's already been a strong team this year.
For sure.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how they continue this great season for them. Because I mean, also the Pacific, not the strongest division, so this is a very good opportunity to cement their spot in this division, right? And like not have to worry about their wild card spot. Like with Calgary and Edmonton really performing below expectations, the only one they're really fighting for, I feel, is Vegas.
Yeah.
Canucks are out of the fucking picture. There's a chicken dick's chance we even sniff the playoffs. But no, I'm really looking forward to what they do. A few contracts here. Young Matthew Boldy for the Minnesota Wild, who's in his final year of his entry-level contract, signs a 7x7. 7 years, $7 million AAV, $49 million overall. He has 29 points in 42 games. Hayden, lately we've been seeing this more. Teams betting on their players and giving them massive contracts out of their ELC, no more of these bridge deals and then big contracts. You saw it in Jake Batherson, Josh Norris, Tim Stutzel, Jack Hughes. Like you're seeing it more and more. We didn't even see this out of Pedersen and Hughes. Like we just saw bridge deals from them, and then Hughes signed on bigger. How do you feel about Matthew Boldy signing this big of a contract, and just like the young kids out of their ELC signing these big contracts right away?
The scariest part is just it's an entry level contract and it's that much money given to a youngster.
Yeah.
Like great for them. They have the talent, but do they have the mental capacity to handle that much money at such a young age? You know what I mean? Like I don't think you or I, Jeff, could handle that much money without at least like blowing a lot of it in a day.
I would do a lot of questionable things with $7 million.
Exactly. And you know what? Like even you, Brett, like I don't know how much we could. So I hope they have the right people to kind of, talk them through this amount of money. I'm sure they do if they're, obviously going to be making it big in the NHL, but we see a lot of dumb people with too much money these days, and then they just ruin their career, and then the team looks like an idiot because they're like, oh, how did you not see his character play out like this? And it's like, well, fuck, we just toss all of our money at a 25 or under year old. It's scary, but congrats for him. He's playing lights out.
Yeah, he's a great player. I love Matt Boldy. I have him in my dynasty league. Dauber Hockey was on him, the last couple of years as a high-end prospect, so I picked him up. And now the proof isn't like he looks really good out there. The Wild are funny though, right? Because they're kind of like preparing for Parise, those two contracts to come off the books. Like they're somehow still ultra competitive with all this like ridiculous money, and they're still going out and signing a kid for big money for 7 years. So the Wild, I like their approach. Like Bill Guerin is just like
I think
he
they're
goes
like
out there. He's aggressive, man. Like he's an aggressive dude with how he runs that club.
they're smarter and better ran team. They're a smarter and better ran Canucks. They're always middle of the pack, but they have smart people at the top where we have dumb people at the top.
And they're doing what they can. They're trying to prepare to get out of those contracts, right?
Yeah.
Like trying, they can see the light now. But I'm just blown away that the Wild are as competitive as they are. They shouldn't be as competitive as they are.
And I honestly I like the mentality of betting on your stars young. I think it's kind of smart. Because like you said, they're probably anticipating the cap going up by a decent margin. So if you can get these guys at a decent price before they're asking for $9-10 million, because I think
look real smart. Yeah.
Because I think a player like Boldy, 2 years, this contract might be one of the best in the NHL. He might be an 80-90 point kid, and he's only making $7 million a year. Right? Like Jack Hughes is making $8-9 million. He's like an 80-90 point guy. Tim Stutzel is coming into his own. Drake Batherson's coming into his own. Josh Norris was having a really good year before he got hurt.
Love Josh Norris,
So I like the idea of betting on these young guys if they've shown what they can do. And I think Boldy at the start of the year, he probably would have won Rookie of the Year last year if he played a full season, but he came into the season really late.
Yeah, he did.
And he turned it up immediately, and he had a really good start. He's kind of fallen off a bit, but like I can get behind signing these rookies big quick. But another one, Pavel Zacha signs a 4-year, $19 million extension with Boston. He has 7 goals, 21 assists in 43 games this year. He was going to be a UFA this year. I think he's decent depth signing. He's exploded in Boston, but I think every single player on that team has exploded this year. So I can understand it as like a depth piece. He's pretty good two-way forward. So shout out to him. Some little injury updates here. Evander Kane could make his return tonight. We are recording here on Tuesday evening. Evander Kane could make his return versus the Kraken on Tuesday. Quick turnaround for
that's
the degree
insane.
of injury he had.
Yeah. No kidding.
I mean, like a skate slice almost to the bone, and I thought he would. I think this is right on track for what his timeline was, but it's hard to believe that he could turn around this quick.
Yeah, it's impressive, and Oilers will welcome him back. They'll probably change how they calibrate their trade deadline too once he gets back.
So like, yeah, Hayden, you have McDavid in fantasy, so you follow the Oilers a lot, a decent amount.
Sure,
They've been playing way below expectations this year. Like
super below expectations.
They're probably given like a C- grade in terms of how it's gone. Evander Kane added so much to that offense.
Yes,
it gave them the flexibility of splitting up Draisaitl and McDavid. They don't have to front load their offense so much. How much do you think this will inflate their scoring and helping them win games?
I can tell you what, if Kane comes back tonight, I can just see McDavid having like another big night. McDavid obviously is McDavid, right? Like he will have those big nights. And even last time Edmonton played, Jeff, when I was talking to you, and it's like I had 24 points on the day and McDavid had 26 or something like that. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's just not right.
Yeah.
But it's like he still creates even though he doesn't have one of his top line mates. And you know, it's fully rotated with Hyman and you know other pieces. And then sometimes Draisaitl will make a line appearance with McDavid, but it's not super consistent as it was at the start of the year when McDavid was putting up at least an assist and a goal almost every other night. And it's going to be good, and hopefully Edmonton can kind of build with this and then say, hey, maybe we should really try and trade Darnell Nurse, because holy fuck.
Yeah.
I thought the OEL contract was bad. Like it is, but
this
contract's god. Bad. Yeah. Darnell Nurse could literally be traded for like a bag of jelly beans and no one would bat an eye.
Oh, there's this Instagram page that had a bunch of trade proposals for like some of the expecting trade bait boards, and it had like Horvat it had Besser for Matt Dumba, first round pick, second round pick kind of thing. Like it had all these like mock trades, and it had Darnell Nurse for a bag of Haribo gummy bears. I laughed out loud. It's pretty funny. But we'll move on here. Maple Leafs forward Nick Robertson is out for the year with shoulder surgery. He's one of their prospects that was hoping to have a good year. He's been kind of underperforming a little bit, but hopefully he gets better. Ovechkin reaches 30 goals for the 17th time with the Capitals. That sets an NHL record, passing Mike Gartner. We can talk forever about Ovechkin. He's just unbelievable. Congratulations to Krejci for the Boston Bruins. Plays his 1,000th NHL game with the Bees. He's been one of those consistent, solid second line centers who just puts up 50 to 60 points every single year. It's just so solid. Congratulations to him. And last note, Pacioretty unfortunately hurt again. He left the Canes game prior to the Canucks. I forget who they were playing exactly, but with a lower body injury. He had 3 goals in 4 games upon returning to the team. So hopefully he can recover quick. But Hayden, we'll toss it over to you because this past weekend was unfucking believable. So tee us up for the wildcard weekend, buddy.
Hell fucking yeah. It was a weekend and a half. First of all, I just want to ask both of you guys here. If you could have put one team in the playoffs in either division, kind of like on that fringe sort of playoff record that was really close to the 7th seed, who would you guys put in instead of the 7th seed Seattle and the 7th seed Miami?
I need to look at
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull it up real quick because that's a really good question.
Because Miami, yeah, they had a good record. Skylar Thompson, and I know they played the Bills hard, but no one had Miami winning at all.
I just
Yeah,
think it's unfortunate circumstance because I think that game goes a bit different with
With
Tua at the
Mhm.
helm, just like a little bit.
well, I think so. Yeah,
So I just wish it kind of could have played out differently, but I mean, you can only play what you're given. So
Exactly.
that's a tricky
oh
question.
uh give me Detroit. I would want to see them in the playoffs just to see what Dan Campbell could do. Um, I think the way he coached this Lions team to a winning record for the first time in what seems like forever,
Mhm.
is just you see the city and the culture in Detroit being revived with the turnaround that team's made.
Oh yeah.
And I just think there's so much. We talk about it like Seattle, like they're that culture, that locker room, everyone's fighting for each other. So, and like you can talk about Jared Goff being a stopgap quarterback, which I think he is, but they're still not moving off of him. They're like, no, he's our fucking guy and we're gonna play for him.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff, say what you want about him, but he's found his niche in Detroit. He had good years in LA. He's capable of having good seasons, and with a limited roster like Detroit provides, dude, that there's only going to be a couple more years till that team really takes off. So
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
I would have liked to see them in the playoffs just to see what
Just to see what they would have
just to
done
see what
against
they would have
San
done
Fran. Yeah.
because they were the people's teams. They were the people's team in the NFL.
Mhm.
Everyone
Yeah.
was a fan of Detroit, whether you liked it or not.
yeah, man, I
So
agree.
as
Yeah,
that's what I would have wanted to see out of the NFC. AFC, I'm gonna say the Patriots, but no one else really jumps off the board in terms of fringe playoff teams. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
the AFC's tricky because like Patriots don't, I wouldn't have cared so much to see them in there.
they're not really
Steelers.
exciting. Like they
No.
And
don't fucking.
yeah, if the Titans had Ryan Tannehill, I would have been fine to see more. The Titans play like a kind of playoff brand of football. So if they had a healthy quarterback, I would have said the Titans. But the
Yeah,
AFC's a crapshoot
Yeah.
for that.
I think
spot.
the right teams made it for the AFC in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like
and
I
I would
would.
second the Lions pick. I'm a big Dan Campbell fan. Obviously, Hayden coming from that Saints program,
Oh
big
yeah.
fan.
Big tight
So
end
love
guy.
what he's doing there, and I'm also a big Jameson Williams guy. I took him with my fourth overall pick in my dynasty league last year, and
I got him at 5, so
I
I'm
just
happy
think
with
he's
that.
going to be like. I just want to see more Lions football. I think they're
Yeah.
exciting, and I love those brands of football. So
Oh
it's a
yeah.
shame that they didn't make it. I was actually like really rooting because whatever that situation was that they needed, I can't remember. I think Seahawks. They were depending on the
They
Seahawks losing, right?
Yeah, they needed to win their game, and then they needed the Seahawks to lose
Yeah,
their game to LA, which it looked like it could have been if
yeah,
Baker Mayfield had done anything equivalent to what he did against Denver.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's not like the Packers weren't playing for anything either. Like they were a win and in.
Yeah.
So everyone in the comment section of like the NFL post of like what needs to happen for each team and stuff like that, and everyone was like, "So we're all Lions fans, right?"
Oh yeah.
Like they're like, "We
And
don't
I
want Green Bay to be a win and in."
yeah.
no. I
So
know. And I love Dan Campbell's response to it. It's like, why did you do that when you could have got a better pick if you lost? And he's like, what are we now? And they're like, you're 12. And he's like, what were we if we lost? 10. Yeah, that's why.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it's 2 picks and you're beating it's like a playoff game. You're beating someone to eliminate them.
Yeah.
And I love that mentality. That is a football
especially a
mentality.
division rival.
Division rival.
Especially.
Like Detroit's probably like, if we're not making it in, they're not making it in either. So we're gonna win this
Green
game.
Bay.
Yeah. So it's like if they beat us, they're in and we're not. If
Yeah.
we win, we're either in or we're both out. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and you're not gonna tell a team to play for a better draft pick that could potentially take one of those players' spots.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Like
no
that.
one's gonna
No.
play for that. You
No.
tell a player to play for a better draft pick, and they're gonna tell them they're gonna request a trade anyway.
Yeah,
You'd be like, don't fucking ever tell me to do that again because I'm playing for my job. Everyone's playing for the job each play.
big
Right.
agree. Big agree. But
So
Yeah.
with that, we'll start Saturday afternoon. We had the for the first half, what seemed like Seattle plus 10 was the smartest bet anyone could ever make in their life. And then Brock Purdy decided he's like, you know what? I have the shivers gone. Now I'm going to start playing good.
yeah, I'm
and
settled in now.
and everyone decided to play good. Debo had a huge run. McCaffrey had a huge run. Kittle with 2 touchdowns on 3 catches. Like
Mhm.
Yeah, so
San Francisco.
Kittle's just back now, right? Like he's just
He's
fucking
back.
he's back
he
with
He's back.
Yeah.
like he was consensus number 2 tight end behind Kelsey. People were even fighting him as the tight end to have outside of fantasy football because of how versatile he is and run blocking, pass blocking, all that.
Yeah, he's a
But
good
then he
blocker.
kind of fell off a bit because he was injury prone. Unfortunately, he went through some things and kind of just slowed down due to not getting targets. But now Brock Purdy's like, nah, baby, you're better when you're on top.
Yes.
We're better when you're on top. And Kittle is just racking up the catches. San Francisco is just so fucking back on
So
all
hard to
cylinders.
defend because Ayuk is a great receiver too, and
Yep.
he's such a good route runner that it's just like they're so hard to stop, even with
Yeah.
Brock Purdy. I mean, and he's like no slight to him because he's playing great football, but just like the pieces around him and the run game and the defense is. It's just like you'd have to really work to not thrive right now. That's just such a great system. It's just looking so good.
You have to try hard to fuck up in that system with the players that are that you're Kyle Shanahan's working with. Like you have to really try hard to screw this up because there's so many versatile players on that team.
Well, it becomes more and more of a question every week too. Do you just say like whatever you can get for Lance and be done with it? Like Purdy is playing like he has nothing to lose, which he doesn't, because he loses one game and it's like, yeah, we're going back to Lance. But if he wins and wins and wins and wins, like if they get to the Super Bowl, I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm like, yeah, Lance, we're just gonna try and get whatever we can for you.
No, I 1000% do that. And Hayden, like I was on the opposite end because I wanted to see what Lance could do, but like you were saying, they don't need anything special at quarterback position to make the system work. And I don't need to see Purdy go to the Super Bowl. I'm trading Lance this offseason and seeing what I can get. I'm going to try and get as best package as I can.
I think they cemented that when they traded for CMC, because I think if you add like a run first quarterback into that system, you're going to screw up the like it's going to mess things up. Like it's just not conducive to a running quarterback right now with Christian McCaffrey and how much draft capital you sent to acquire him. I think when they made that move, it was to me that was like, this is our build. And we'll deal with Lance. Like that's just and they can just get something for him. Like we'll see. I'm curious what they do with him. Like bring him back to training camp. Get teams to have a look at him. We'll see. But
I do think he has to get some reps under his belt before they can trade him because of how gruesome his injury was. So I think preseason, maybe first couple of weeks of regular season, they trade him just so people can actually scout him and get a bit more film on him to see how he's playing and how that injury's impacted him. But I do not think he's the quarterback of the future for the 49ers. I think he's going to be traded within next season at some point, I think.
Oh, and teams will be lining up to take a chance at him, the quarterback.
Oh yeah, especially if you could get him for cheap too. Like, if he only plays in the preseason, you got to let him start all 3 games.
Yeah,
and show what he can do.
Or
at least by then.
At least get Purdy in some games, like get him some halves as well, because he's still a young quarterback.
Agreed. But you just gotta let him, like, you just gotta tee up basically Lance and say, like, yeah, look at, he's healthy, he's good. Like, we'll take a 3rd round for him.
Yeah.
Let bro cook. You know what I'm saying? But Brad, I do want to go back to your point about having Lance in the backfield with like McCaffrey and players like Debo and Ayuk and stuff like that. I really relate it to having too many ball handlers on an NBA team, like having like Westbrook, Harden, and Chris Paul on the same team kind of thing. It's like those are all guys who need the ball in their hands, so it's not going to work. when you have Lance, Debo, McCaffrey, they all want to make plays. But when you have Lance who wants to run as well, that's going to ruin the morale when they're like, yo, this guy's not getting me the ball. He's not giving me the ball, but it's like, yo, I want to run with the ball as well. Like, that's just going to ruin it. So if you get a quarterback who's going to facilitate and they're like, I don't need to fucking run. I suck at running. I'm a statue back here.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, perfect. Your share can split between me and the other guys. We're going to get the ball more. And with your limited running, we're going to get more screens, handoffs, slants, whatever, and let us do more making plays and stuff. So I really think that it's best to go with quarterbacks like
Purdy,
Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy.
Because Elijah Mitchell's no slouch either. I mean, that guy, he's a bit of a bandit. He can turn.
If he can stay
He can
healthy.
really turn. So, like, what is he going to do if you're just too many cooks? But,
yeah. No, I agree, and that's what I related to. Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen, especially if you consider, or if you basically put this into cooking terms, you can't have your head chef have like 8 sous chefs, because then it's like you just got no regular cooks. So yeah, you gotta let the boys eat, but you also gotta let them take a little bit off.
Yes.
But
yeah.
So San Francisco, you guys are in a very good position right now.
Oh, they're back at the top. And it's amazing how much that last thing quick.
Yeah.
I was really interesting to see how like McCaffrey would gel with that roster right away. He hasn't taken
instantly.
It's
instantly
was working right away. And I think that made it really scary. Like the league was scared after seeing how quickly he gelled with that team.
Well, fuck, it's only like you put like the best dual threat running back in like one of the most creative offensive minds in all of football. What do you think's gonna happen? Yeah. he's gonna tear it up.
Dude, you have a running back who can play receiver. You have a receiver who can play running back. You have like you have two
a tight end who's a lineman.
Yeah, it's fucking unfair. And then you have Ayuk, who's the forgotten wide receiver 1 on that team.
Yeah.
And then like the defense alone could eat people all the way to the Super Bowl. Like so
easily.
Dude, you have Warner and Bosa on that defense alone.
It's an issue. I'd love to see them play the Eagles. That
has to happen. It has to happen.
It's gonna be a good matchup if it does.
Yeah.
Anyways, Hayden, continue. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good. Saturday night. You called me Jeff. After us talking about Lawrence being the best number 1 overall pick and for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I was like, yeah, I agree. And then Saturday night happened, and it's like I'm back on Etienne being the best first round pick. And then 2 hours later,
Staley.
Like, but the sad part is we saw this coming. We called it. We called that the Chargers were gonna do this, but in such dramatic fashion. Never saw that coming.
Yeah,
like
Brett, I said that I wouldn't be surprised. Like me, Ian, and Hayden last week, we all said that we could see the Jaguars winning this game. Like they did it earlier in the season. Yeah. Like they're not like they're home underdogs still, which like that's like they could really win this game. Yeah. But I didn't think they'd do it in this fashion. Like I thought they'd be going toe to toe with LA and try to win. Yeah. Not a 27-point comeback. Like what the fuck?
No.
It's unbelievable.
And I love talking or how everyone talks about like the turnover differential. It just reminds me of it takes me back to a dark place. Saints in playoffs. When you have +5 turnover differential, you're not supposed to win. Yeah. When New Orleans had a +3 turnover differential and lost to Tampa in the divisional 2 years ago, which by the way, Drew Brees played his last game ever 2 years ago today, or 3 years ago today. Fucking kill me right now.
Pouring out some oldie.
Yeah, pour one out for the boy, but it's like you're not supposed to win those games.
No.
And the moment I knew when it was going to be different was when the Chargers didn't score, when the ball hit the fucking guy right on the head for like the punt gunner return man or whatever. And it's like, how do you not score within the 20-yard line there? At least a touchdown, you kick the field goal, and then the next drive the Jaguars had, they went down and scored, and I was like, that's going to be it right there. And then slowly inching and inching and inching, and 28-3 is irrelevant now. It's now 27-7 or 27-0.
Yeah, it's 27-0.
Yeah.
Third biggest playoff comeback in NFL history.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And the 28-3 was just Super Bowl, like biggest Super Bowl comeback.
It's very Chargers. It's very on brand for them. And I think the Chargers kind of started charging last week when they played all their starters and they didn't have to.
Yep.
And I watched Mike Williams get hurt, and I'm just like, if I was a Chargers fan, and I have a couple of close buddies who are like degenerate Chargers fans, it would make me want to ram my head through the drywall. Right? It's like, why are you starting? Like, why is this happening? And to me, I was like, I was just like, this is not going to be the Chargers year. Like their run defense is Swiss cheese. So to me, I was like, the Jaguars are going to win if they can just run the ball like in between the tackles consistently. I think they can win this football game. And then sure enough, it was like, no, we're going to throw 4 picks and crawl our way back. But the Chargers are just that frustrating franchise, like all the talent in the world, and they just can't. They've never found a way to pull it all together. It's just
I just never think they've had a qualified coach at the helm to really drive the bus on that, because I think right from the get-go, Jaguars were up heavily in coaching.
With
Doug Peterson has that playoff run, that Super Bowl under his belt.
Yeah.
And he turned this Jaguars team around. Like, I've never seen a team turn around quicker than this Jaguars team. And it really showed that coaching matters, because Urban Meyer was utterly disgraceful.
God awful.
And Peterson came and was like, don't worry, I'm here. And that did wonders to Lawrence, because he really showed Clemson Lawrence this year.
Yeah.
And in that second half,
this is a generational talent that everyone thought they were getting, right?
So he needed that support.
Yeah.
And they chargered. Like, it's really unfortunate, because I'm not a Chargers fan, but like I picked up Herbert in my dynasty league off the waiver wire and started falling in love with him. So I'm like an adopted Herbert fan. So I want to see him do well. Like, he is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I really want to see him succeed. So I have to see the Chargers succeed. I didn't watch like the last maybe third of the game because I was going to a friend's birthday. But I saw the score because I was like, I want to see what the score is at. Because I kind of saw that the Jags were starting to turn it on a little bit. Like, they got a score and stuff like that, and they were kind of turning up the heat a little bit. I saw that it was 30-28 for the Chargers with 3 seconds left in the fourth. And I'm like, the only reason it doesn't say final right now is because the Jags are probably in field goal range. And they called the timeout. And I'm like, I'm not getting an update right now. I put my phone away for 5 minutes. I look up and I see. And I texted Hayden because I saw that the time was frozen. I texted Hayden. I was like, what's happening right now? Because I see this. Like, what is happening in the game? 5 minutes later, I turn my phone on, and TSN notification. Hayden texted me. I was like, it actually happened. Oh my God. I didn't think it was possible.
Let me just say that kick barely went in, but it went in. And that's all that matters on the score.
They don't ask how. Yeah, they don't ask how.
All I can say about this game is Sean Payton has entered the chat, and that's where we're gonna leave it.
Well, they fired
Joe Lombardi.
They fired their OC, and they fired another coach, as well. Maybe he was the OC and something else, but they made some changes. Do we think Staley's gone?
Yes.
I think he has to.
He
right?
has to be gone, man. Like, it can't be another year of this bullshit. Like, no more.
Yeah. They're too talented of a roster. I think they
way too talented. Way too talented. I completely agree. And all I can see them doing next year in the draft is, if they have any picks left after they give them all to New Orleans. No, I'm kidding. They're gonna have to go younger receiver, because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen
they need speed, dude.
They're getting old. They need someone who can, like, they need like a Chris Olave sort of prototype player, like a Garrett Wilson, someone who's reliable but young now, because they're getting old and they're getting injured quick.
Yeah.
Peyton and Olave for 3 first-round picks.
Boom. No, I wouldn't do that actually.
No.
Anytime you hear 3 first-round picks, I'm like, but no, I
mean, it's like maybe that. Oh fuck no, I like Rashid Shaheed too. Fuck.
First team all name.
Oh yeah.
But like really quickly on that point, real quickly, because you kind of alluded to it, Hayden, is Joe Lombardi, Saints under Sean Payton's tutelage, goes to the Chargers, kind of flopped. Pete Carmichael, takes over the reins this year, doesn't look like the same play caller. Peyton's stock is just through the roof right now. It's never been
the roof.
Here. Like this guy, he was the secret sauce, man. Like he made it all work.
If Staley gets fired, I can immediately see Peyton taking Pete Carmichael with him to the Chargers, and I'd totally be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, give me a new offensive coordinator, please. Someone who knows how to use Kamara.
Yes, before it's too late. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm going to say about Saint stuff. But moving on to Sunday, what I thought was going to be like the absolute blowout of blowout games turned out to what I wanted the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers game to be, because it was a lot closer. But the Dolphins, surprise report almost came out that Mike McDaniel was going to get fired if they didn't make playoffs. I don't know how you could do that, considering your franchise quarterback almost fucking had his brain turn off twice. Mike McDaniel has turned around the Dolphins organization and almost beat the juggernaut Bills with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I don't understand any flack that Mike McDaniel gets. I think there should be no negative backlash towards him. He's done great this year with what? Maybe he handled the first two a situation poorly. Maybe. But he was probably just listening to team doctors, so the team doctors probably mishandled Tua more than he did. But I think just in general, I think he's done great this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Other than
the fact that teams kind of started to figure out their offensive strategy a little bit. They were losing their luster a little. Like defenses were starting to figure out how to play the Dolphins.
Yeah. Tyreek and Waddle slowed down a lot. So
they did.
Yeah, I think like they had that one. It's like that one play in Madden that like always works. They had that one. They had their seam plays that they really relied on, and defenses started. They were starting to take that away. And I was curious to see what they'd look like with Tua and with like defenses starting to like pay attention to that, because it's just too bad that Tua wasn't there. I was pleased with how the Dolphins looked. Like that defense, like that game was way better than I expected it to be. I was just pleased that it was an entertaining game, and it was actually more fun than I thought, thanks to their defense. Oh, thanks to Josh Allen, I guess, being a little generous with the football.
Yeah, I think it's turned into a very like tough part of Allen's game is
playing hero ball too much.
Discipline, yeah. He's letting Nick Wright had a good phrase about it. He's on First Things First on FS1, I believe. And he says that as talented as he is, he's getting intoxicated on his own talent. He like you said, hey, he's trying to just do too much with it. He knows he can do it, so he tries to do the impossible each time, where he just needs to step back, slice and dice the offense. That's how the Patriots were so successful. Mind you, Tom Brady didn't have the talent that Josh Allen did, but how they beat their opponents was, Rex Ryan also said, death by 1,000 cuts. So you just got to piece up the defense and always keep them guessing, where you always anticipate Allen scrambling, rolling out, throwing it deep to Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
And then somehow, like we saw, an unbelievable one-handed backflip touchdown by Dawson Knox that happens every fucking playoffs. So I think the Bills need to, yes, they got the win, but they really need to come back to reality and just play disciplined football.
They're going to
If
need
they
to
were-
run the football at some point. They're going to need
Yeah.
to run between the tackles. at
and
some
not
Yeah.
designed runs by Allen. Like they need to actually use their running backs a lot more.
Yeah,
And they, like
I definitely
Singletary
agree.
has shown that he can do that at times this season, but they really don't want to run between the tackles. But at some point this playoff run, they're going to have to. I don't know if they can good enough in that circumstance. But Allen he's overcome those deficiencies, right? So
Yeah,
he,
you live and die by Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like what's bad when he rolls out of the pocket and then he's not running, but he's doing like the little stutter step and he has the ball out here. That's when you get nervous because it's like if he takes a hit, he's not going down on the first one, and then he's most likely getting hit and blown up and fumbling. It's like he has to have a mental clock in his head always going. If I don't see anything and I can't run, throw the ball away, or else I'm
Or
gonna get
slide.
blown up. Or
Or slide.
like
Give yourself
just do
up.
anything to not take a sack. Like that's what I mean. Like don't take a
Okay.
sack behind the line.
Yeah.
Don't take a sack, make the smart play and move on to the next one. Like that's the whole thing about being a quarterback, right? Is quick thinking, quick minds, get a play in, get a play out. That's all you need to do. Obviously there's so much more, but a lot of the mental game is going play by play. It's not thinking about what you're going to do in the red zone when you're at your own fucking 5-yard line. It's how do I get to there? So I think they have to realize that they need to play a slower game because you're not beating Cincinnati with that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll move on. Bills obviously win, close nail biter, good game.
Yeah.
One thing I actually want to say, Mike McDaniel, that was probably your worst coached game ever. I don't know how many, like that game felt like it was 4.5 hours, right?
I didn't catch the first half of it, but I tried to watch as much as the second half was.
It went from like 10 o'clock, Jeff, to they had to delay the New York and Minnesota game to 1:50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still went over.
Yeah.
Like it ended at like 2, like 1:55.
And that was a lot of false starts and a lot of like timeouts taken by McDaniel. Terrible
Yeah.
coaching game. But next game, the Giants upset the fraudulent Minnesota Vikings, and Brett, as a Saints fan, I think we were both cheering for the Giants.
And no issues with that outcome. Yeah.
Yeah, only post the Minneapolis Miracle the day before about everywhere on my timeline, all for you to throw it 3 yards,
On
3
4th
yards
and 8.
beyond the line of scrimmage on 4th and 8 to end your season. A big fuck you to Minnesota.
That's the most
and
Kirk
such a
thing
Kirk
to do.
Cousins way of finishing a season.
Yes,
You beat me to the punch, Brett. Like that's such a Kirk thing to do.
absolutely.
Yeah, it really is.
And I was just like, oh my god, wow. Josh Dobbs must have called Kirk and said like, yo, this play works, man. Yeah. The only person I would ever trust that you throw a 3-yard dump off to on 4th down is Tyreek Hill. There's no Tyreek Hill on Minnesota. Like you got Jettas, but he's not Tyreek Hill.
No.
So
And even then, I think you just have to push the ball past the sticks there.
got
It
to.
just doesn't-
You have to.
If he threw past the sticks and it was good enough to like, or it was like he gave his receiver a chance and it just didn't.
I would
like,
so much
complete-
rather it end on a pick than a fucking 3-yard dump off.
You got to give a chance to get a first down and have your receiver make a catch. If he does those two things and it goes incomplete or interception, no, we're not talking about this right now. But it's the fact that he didn't 3 yards when you need 8 with a linebacker directly behind Hawkinson or whoever caught the pass.
Hawkinson,
It's like you're not giving him a chance to at least make a play.
No.
Yeah, and Hawkinson's not a yak guy. He
No. He's a possession guy. He's at the sticks and stuff like that. Like it was a pathetic attempt to keep the season going, and they just re-signed him this year, did they not? Like, didn't they extend him?
Kirk, yeah, they just did, yeah.
Like that's tough. Look,
Yeah.
No.
No, absolutely.
So-
But you know what? They had a fun season. They won like all their one-score games until it mattered the most. So
It's a hard stat to rely on.
Love
Mhm.
it. Love
Yep.
it.
But can we talk a little bit about Dable and Vanilla Vic and
Yes,
Saquon
that's
looking
exactly what I was
unbelievable?
gonna say, because Danny Dimes, Vanilla Vic, whatever the fuck you want to call him, first player to ever pass for over 300 and rush for over 70 yards, and he looked good doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely looked good. And you know what? Danny Dimes has had a great year this year, and I've gone back and I've seen and just thought about like a lot of his tape. He's a really good passer. His receivers suck at catching.
Oh my God, the Giants receiving core is probably the worst in the league.
And they
But
traded
it's not
away
even that
Tony.
bad.
But like Kenny Golladay caught his like first pass of the fucking year in like week 18 or like week 17 or some shit.
First touchdown
One of like the worst contracts in the
ever.
NFL. But like it's just like with Tony gone, like he was dynamic when he was healthy, but like there's just not really anything that screams yes in the Giants receiving room.
No.
Like
Hodgins kind of looks like he could become something.
but like there's no one that you really like that's
You know who it
notable.
is? It's my boy Daniel Bellinger, who actually I think is legit sauce. That guy is a good tight end, and he is like year one starter tight end, which doesn't happen all the time.
No.
He's been injured, and he's come back. Like I actually think he's like a legit viable starting fantasy tight end for years to come.
I was looking at his name, and it's like if they really set up Danny Dimes with a contract, I could put him on Dynasty just in case, because I agree.
I think there's potential there, and like Daniel Jones in this system, we were talking about Jared Goff earlier. Like the NFL is so fickle like that, where you can have a good player in a bad system, and it just never works.
Yep.
Goff was in a decent system as a Ram, but he's really flourished now. And this system for Daniel Jones is just perfect. And he could end up being like the best quarterback too in Superflex leagues for those who have him on.
Oh, yeah.
Next year, like those running quarter, like Jalen Hurts and how much he runs. Like he's not Jalen Hurts, but he has that kind of like
He has that
variable.
explosiveness too.
Yeah,
He has that gear. Yeah.
And
it's cool. Like he's like a year, like what is it, 5th-year option he's coming into, right? Or is it?
I think
this
they
is his 5th
declined
year?
They
it.
declined his 5th-year
Declined
option,
him.
but they have to extend him.
Totally.
Surely you give him like 25 to 30 mil, right? Like annually.
I think he's played his way into.
Especially
The
with
quarterback
Dable's system.
landscape is so bad. I mean, Derek Carr is getting fired.
Yeah.
You got to pay him something like that. You know, it's so hard to find.
Yeah. And I remember at the beginning of the season that like Dable coming in, he was the OC for Buffalo, and you can't tell me that Daniel Jones and Josh Allen aren't somewhat alike.
Oh, they very much are alike.
When they first started in the league, they were very undisciplined in terms of turnovers and being very sporadic with some of their passing decisions and stuff like that, but very good runners of the ball. Fucking Daniel Jones had no one to handle his offense, whereas opposed Josh Allen had McDermott overseeing everything and Dable coaching the offense. Dable comes over, like he's copy and pasted the same quarterback. You can't tell me that Daniel Jones wasn't going to have a better year under this new coaching staff. Like he's gotten a solid foundation under his belt. And Dable gave him nothing but confidence and just let him run. And Daniel Jones improved in every single category possible: passing, running, interceptions, completion percentage. Like he was a legit starter, and he looked like the future of this team. And looking on Giants Twitter and just the whole media surrounding that team, everyone's opinion on Daniel Jones has somewhat flipped. They still might not have complete trust in him as the future, but they've switched on him enough where they want to see a couple more years out of him as the Giants quarterback. As opposed to last year, they were like, get him out of here. He's not the future. Where now they're saying, I want to see what he can do next year. And the year after. And now he's giving them a playoff win after their first appearance in many years. And their whole 2012. Team looked good.
Yeah.
Saquon looked unfucking believable.
Mhm.
And Daniel Jones looks solid. So I'm excited to see how this Giants team goes, like moves forward in the playoffs and what Daniel Jones's future looks like as a Giant and just as a starter, and see if this year can
Fun
really
matchup next
catapult him.
weekend. Fun divisional matchup. That should
Oh
be good.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. So
Coach,
I'm excited.
I think he's definitely the coach of the year. Brian Dable is.
I think he deserves it.
Like we can talk about coaches turning around, like Doug Peterson, Dan Campbell, Brian Dable. I think those are my top 3 for coach of the year. They've done so much in 1 year of like a big turnaround. Dan Campbell took 2 years, but
Mhm.
like to see where the Giants have been and where they were and how desperate they were, Brian Dable is just like leaps and bounds beyond anything I'd ever imagined the Giants season to come to. So super excited for them, even though I'm not a Giants fan at all, but I am a big Saquon fan. I've
Yeah.
loved Saquon. So
I think
that's
you can
gonna
look
be
back and say that that was worth the draft capital for Saquon,
yes.
even with the hiccups. They can't do what they did yesterday without like an elite running
No.
back.
And he like that spin move that he put on, I think it was Harrison Smith. If put Harrison Smith in a retirement home with that one. Fuck.
Yeah.
But we'll move it to Sunday night. Man, so many mixed emotions of quarterback fans. Michael Vick and RG3 were going at it and started talking shit. RG3 even posted a picture of his fucked up leg in that brace, playing through it. Because Michael Vick was so hard on Lamar Jackson, saying that he needs to just play this game.
Mm.
No,
Yeah.
no, he does not. Robert Griffin kind of cringed this year, but I will fully back him and say that he put Vic in a body bag, pun not intended, and absolutely bodied him with his picture saying like, no, Lamar needs to take his time. He doesn't have a contract yet, and he's going to get paid by someone next year. Cincinnati took care of business in Baltimore, but I feel like we all knew it was coming, considering that Baltimore's defense was the only thing that could kind of stop Cincinnati, because their offense looked so brutal to watch.
Yeah.
And that last play was just how their season has gone.
Yeah. I mean, like
One catch away.
Dobbins looks solid. But like it just looked like Huntley couldn't really get comfortable until later.
Yeah.
Like it
And
seemed like he
yeah,
was
Oh,
really
yeah.
scrambling in the backfield. Like he didn't really have any time to make decisions. But
Yeah.
as the game went on, he got a little bit more comfortable finding Robinson and a few others. Like he was finding Andrews more and more as the game went on. He had that big run as well. He broke free, but Huntley, I think his slow start, not being able to get comfortable, really hurt Baltimore's momentum in trying to generate anything. Whereas Cincinnati kind of, yeah, Joe Burrow got sacked a lot, but they were they were generating a lot more plays and first downs and moving the sticks a lot more consistently from the get-go, which hurt Baltimore.
I
Yeah.
never got the sense that the Ravens were going to take control of that football game, right? They were chasing it right from the get go. And yeah, they're a run first team that isn't like a great running football team. Even though like
No.
I love Gus Bus and JK, like they look good when they run the football, but they just that's their
Gus,
identity, but they're
Gus
not have
Bus.
yeah, they don't have the support to like run the football how the Ravens want to. One thing, I wasn't a huge fan of Harbaugh coming out after and like I thought he kind of threw me under the bus, man. Like I thought that was a bad look. You
What did he
know,
say? Sorry, I must have missed it.
Oh my God.
well,
Coming out of the
he's basically
first
he's
quarter.
telling the media that Huntley made an error in going up over the top of the pile and he should have gone low. But I mean, to me, it's like I don't even know if that's true. Even if it was Huntley's mistake, as the head coach, you got to go down with the ship. In my opinion, it's just like you got to wear it. Like you can't scapegoat that. I thought that was
No.
brutal. And Harbaugh,
Yeah.
like even on the field, like he gives this like he's like an asshole handshake to what's the Bengals head coach
Zach
again?
Taylor.
Taylor. I just thought I'm not a big Harbaugh guy. I was just like, that's a bad look. I was just like, see
I
ya,
think
Ravens.
I think Harbaugh has had a lot on his mind, especially with the Lamar sort of thing. Like, I love Harbaugh as a coach. I definitely think he was a big dick and maybe just staying his own lane, because even after the first quarter, when the when the on-field reporter tried to talk to him,
Yeah,
she's
man.
like she's like, "Oh, so could we see, I forget the backup quarterback to Huntley. Could we see him come into this game?" No.
Yeah,
Just walks away.
yeah. He was spicy.
But
He
also,
he
in
was,
my
yeah.
opinion, what a dumb fucking question.
Right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh
if
yeah.
my
I think reporters need to get put in their place sometimes with some of these fucking questions they ask. Can we see the third string quarterback in a huge rivalry game in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't
No.
blame him for that testy
Yeah,
response.
no. Like,
But
I
like,
would be pissed off with that question too. It's like,
yeah.
I'm not going to give you any more than no. And then,
I
yeah,
his
you don't deserve my
facial
time.
expression was like, did you really just fucking ask me that? Like,
Yeah, reporters,
if
they
my
need,
Yeah.
quarterback is healthy, he's playing.
yeah, they need to get put in check because it's not like he's had good instances in games. Like, he's a good
Yeah.
backup quarterback. So
I
it's
actually
like,
felt bad. I was really rooting for Huntley. I was kind of, as much as I don't really like the Ravens in general, I don't particularly know why. I was kind of rooting for Huntley, and I felt bad for him after those post game comments because I was just like,
yeah.
maybe he was supposed to go low, but like that's a team miscommunication error, and the head coach should wear that, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Anyway,
No,
I agree.
I agree that you have to go down with the ship no matter what, and then address it face to face with your guy.
yeah, man, it's
Because
your
I mean
backup
it,
quarterback.
because
Like,
that if that play works, Huntley's looked at like, what a great play, but since it didn't, it's like, what a dumb play, right? It's one of those where, um, the result will determine what people say about it. So I think you got to ride with your guys and then address it privately.
No, definitely. But that was, oh, voice crack, Jesus Christ.
Jesus,
But
buddy.
that was the Sunday night game. Now into the amazing Monday night game. Now, Jeff, I know you don't want to talk about this at all, so you can just unplug your headphones. Brett and I can just,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more infuriated about a game that my team wasn't involved in. Like, Hayden, with that survivor pool, I was like, Tampa Bay with points at home against a team Brady's never lost to. I'm taking that.
yeah.
yeah.
The first two drives from Dallas, I was like, this is looking good. But also the first two
It's
drives
like,
from
oh, wow.
Tampa, I'm like, this isn't looking good. Because I mean, nothing happened the first two possessions for each team.
No.
And then Prescott just went to work and just started putting the Tampa Bay defense on the workbench and just
Absolutely.
fucking tearing them apart. And my entire like morale was just going down. And I was delivering pizzas and I was breaking the rules and had the game on while I was driving. And just Prescott was going over the top. Like, so many times Tampa's defense could have made a stop. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, yo, I don't have any money. I guess I have money on this, but like, I'm like, just get one stop.
Yeah.
One stop. And Dallas was just getting points. Tampa was gifted 4 missed extra points from
that was
Meyer.
crazy.
4 missed extra points, and you still have a goose egg at half?
Yeah.
Figure it the fuck out, man. Like, I don't know if this is Todd Bowles, I don't know if this is Brady, or I don't know if it's everything, but you got to figure it out.
I think it's everything.
Bowles, in my
It is.
opinion, you're not a coach, you're a coordinator. Go back to DC, and Tampa's got to find something else. Like, I think Saints will ask for 10 first-round picks if Tampa tries to approach them for Sean Payton. But you got to try and, if you can get Sean Payton at a decent price, you try and find him and then put Todd Bowles back to DC. Because he did good as a defensive coordinator when, what was Tampa's old coach?
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians. He did good as a DC when Arians was coach.
Yep.
So he's not a coach, he's a coordinator. Try and find something else.
That seems to be a common thread in the NFC South. defensive coordinators trying to be head coaches and just absolutely failing.
Well, you even saw with Matt
No.
Patricia. That guy sucked with Detroit.
Yeah, that was
that was awful.
And then he went back to OC for the Patriots, which doesn't make any. That makes
But
less sense.
even like Dan Quinn, kind of successful, blew a game, terrible. Dennis Allen, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And now, Todd Bowles. Like,
Yo, it's totally okay
absolutely awful
to be one of the best coordinators for something. It's fine to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bulls was kind of like it was not like, it was a bit of an experiment because they had Brady still. They wanted Arians back. That wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know why they went with such a defensive-minded guy working with Tom, but like honestly, like the Tampa Bay thing is, I think that experiment is coming to a close.
Yep.
And obviously, being a big Saints fan and everything, I've honestly kept like I'm not a huge Tom. I don't love his style of play. I respect the heck out of everything Tom Brady's done. Like I'm not naive enough to not recognize everything he's accomplished. When he was in a Patriot, he was more like he was different division, and I just like didn't see him as intimately. But since coming into the NFC South and being a Saints fan, the thing I don't like about Tom Brady is just his body language, man. Like it's just
absolutely.
That's what gets me, is like his arm talent's there, his arm strength is there. I actually think he can still play football at a really high level. If he carried himself with more, like, I don't know,
calmness
is not the right word, but it's just like, it's the tantrums and the body language that get me. I actually don't mind his like production on the field. He's a fun quarterback to watch when he's right. Like, that's what gets me about Tom. And you just saw it last night, right? The defeation, like this deflation with his teammates, and this like, I can't stand watching it.
That was like one of the best things for like the past 3 years, was just watching, well, other than this year because they actually won both games against New Orleans, but the last 4 games, mining the playoffs, seeing Tom Brady just rage out on the sidelines, throwing tablets, tantrums, throwing anything that he can that actually is a completion and not an interception to New Orleans was just music to my ears, but it was to my eyes. Like just visually watching me, that was giving me a fucking stiffy. But no, I could see how that'd be frustrating. And he takes it out in the worst ways. Like there was even a video where he tried to pull a Mac Jones and kick someone from the back, like a total red flag in soccer. So yeah, he definitely has his tantrums, and the experiment is over. Tampa Bay, you won a Super Bowl with the greatest quarterback of all time. That's what it fucking took for your poverty franchise. Now I cannot wait to see what failure of a quarterback you start off with next year, because no one wants to play with Todd Bowles, okay?
No, and then there's some issues on that roster. I mean, the offensive line.
The offensive line.
The receivers are aging, and Godwin doesn't look quite the same. And like
I was about to say, they're getting old. Like I think they need to. This is a perfect opportunity to just
blow it up,
suck for a while, and
fire Todd. Like that is a good excuse to fire Todd Bowles, because you realize it's not going to go anywhere next year if you don't have a quarterback. Blow it up.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to blow it up.
Join the rest of the NFC South.
But also, I want to give flowers to Dallas. Like they had a really good game script, and they they had a really good game. Prescott, I think,
unbelievable play.
There was a ton of pressure on him going into this game, tying the league in interceptions and playing like 5 less games than everyone else, and there's a lot of narratives going stuck to his name. Not just this year, but just based on his playoff history. He was 1-3 going into this game, and this was a very big opportunity to prove everyone wrong. And he threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and just composed himself. He was really composed, and he just played a really, really good game. And I just got to give respects to Dak and just the Cowboys in general, because there's a lot of pressure, and they lived up to it. So
yeah, they stepped up.
Agreed.
They looked good. They changed the course a little bit. They were kind of trending down in the last few weeks there, but
especially with that loss against Washington.
Yeah,
That's why I
Their
picked
run,
Tampa
their
Bay
run game
too.
looks good again. If Dallas can run the football with both those guys, I mean,
Oh yeah.
Tony
it's
Pollard is such a good running back. He's so electric.
Yep.
yeah. So it's encouraging to see, and all the teams left deserve to be here, and it's going to make for some good football this coming weekend.
Yeah. I'm
Also,
excited.
one thing, Brett, how awesome was it seeing a receiver with number 13 destroying Carlton Davis?
Yeah, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Saints fans will get that. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's a wild card weekend. Looking forward to an amazing divisional weekend. A lot of divisional games, which is kind of funny how that correlates. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out.
Hayden, do you
There's been a lot of
just want to give each matchup and we'll just quickly give who we think will win, just like money line?
Yeah, we can quickly do that. Let me pull up
Pull the matchups.
Bet365 up here because that is my trusty dusties. So the first Saturday game is Jacksonville at Kansas City. 8.5 point favorite Kansas City is. The over under is 53 points. Jesus Christ. Tell me why I like the Jaguars kind of being a frisky money line play.
I think Kansas City takes care of them money line wise, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville pulls close late.
And covers.
Like maybe lose by 5 or 6. Pulls a quick backdoor cover kind of thing. I can see Jags riding momentum and giving KC a tough test, but I think KC handles them at home and goes to the
I think they handle
conference
it at home,
title.
but I think Vegas, like anytime Vegas goes heavy on the point total like that, I tend to think they're onto something. Like I think the weather's supposed to be decent at Arrowhead, and I think it's just to be Point City.
Yeah, it very well could be. No,
Yeah.
I like that. But that's the first Sunday, or Saturday. Saturday evening, I guess. Will consist of the Giants and the Eagles, which man. 7.5 point favorite, over under 48. I'd like to think that the Eagles have this, but the third time a team plays someone in a game this meaningful scares the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with how hot the Giants are, and is it going to be rust from Philly? Like, are we going to see a well-tuned oil machine, or are we going to see a bunch of quirks, maybe not, fully kinked out yet? Like, this is another one where I could see the spread very much in a good play.
Yeah, I agree. I got the Eagles though. I think the Eagles are gonna close them out.
You have to assume.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a big spread though. I think the Giants are going to show up.
Like I think Eagles money line, but I like the Giants to cover.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. I like the Giants to cover that, but I gotta go Eagles. I just don't think that. I think that team is just. I don't think this is the weekend that they go out. As long as Hurts is healthy, I think they win.
Yeah, that I can't agree. Or I couldn't disagree. Like, I could make up a narrative for every team right now, and that's what scares me. It's because I just need a one play. Don't overthink it. But the Sunday game at 12 will be Cincinnati versus Buffalo. A rematch of a primed up week 17. I think, I'm not trying to clickbait, clout chase, or anything. If DeMar Hamlin shows up for the pregame, I'm hammering Buffalo minus 1,000,000. Like,
Yeah.
if he comes out and he leads like a pregame chant or does whatever, Buffalo won't, like, they can't lose that day. You know what I mean? So it's going to be an uphill battle, in my opinion, for Cincinnati, but it's going to be a great fucking game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
This is the neutral site game, right? This is being
No,
played in Atlanta. No,
no, it's being played in Buffalo.
in Buffalo.
Yeah, it's only if Buffalo and Kansas City
Gotcha.
uh make
Gotcha.
it to
and
the final.
and is that just because Bills have the game like the tiebreaker, but they played one less game? Is that why it's neutral?
Well, yeah, and the fact that if they actually like if they lost to Cincinnati, they still would have the one-up game on the Chiefs. No, because the Chiefs finished 14-3, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah, so if the Bills had won against Cincinnati, then it would be Buffalo home field advantage.
yeah, because
So
Buffalo
yeah,
would have won the AFC if they beat Cincy, right? Because they would have.
ex exactly. And New England week 18. So there's so many like uncertainties that neutral site, which I totally agree with, and it looks like it's going to be played in Atlanta,
mhm.
which I don't understand because these are two outdoor cold weather teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, let's put them on turf and let's make the over under 60 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no,
Uh,
we got to get through this week first, obviously, with Buffalo. I like Buffalo to win this game.
yeah. I like Cincy. I think
No,
Cincy's
I'm
gonna
actually
win.
going Bengals too. I know I understand the Demar like the DH narrative. I think that's like a very real thing, but I like the Bengals. I something about Josh Allen's play recently has just I'm leaning Bengals in my gut.
I just like Bengals history with big games, and I just think they show up when it matters, and then they just somehow lock down.
I like to
So
see
And
Jamar Chase getting like lippy last game. Like he seems to be elevating right now, and I like the Bengals this game.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Like there's so many narratives that you can go off with this week, and this is just another one.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, last game, Dallas will head to Santa Clara to play hot San Francisco 49ers team that is a 3.5 point favorite. So what Vegas is telling me is that these teams are even on a neutral site. Bullshit. Dallas, you're playing good, but San Francisco, like they could be the hottest team right now. This will be Purdy's biggest stage, undoubtedly. Sunday night football game, prime time, huge
Yeah.
divisional game. I think he has the lights for this, and I think I might make a parlay, like betting the 8.5 point plus, 7.5 point plus, the 5 point plus for Bengals, and then give me the one minus, which is San Francisco minus 3.5, because
Mm.
I like San Fran to win this game.
yeah.
I'm hammering.
I like San Fran as well.
And the over under is only 46.5. Hammer that over.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the over.
Definitely
Two
going
offense
that.
powerhouses. Two
Yeah.
decent defenses though, but I like the offense overpowering each defense.
Seeing as how Dallas single-handedly like just fucked Tampa Bay's defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to imagine that it'll be over 46.5 points.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
respectable.
I agree
That's
with
fair.
that.
But with that, that is the upcoming weekend slate.
I like it.
Sick.
I had a game prepared, but we have been going for a while. Are you guys wanting to do what I had prepared, or Brett? I know you have a kid, so if you have to get back to that, I totally
Yeah, I
understand.
do have
Um,
to bounce at this point, boys. I'd love to stick around and do the draft with you. Maybe we can do something like that next time I'm on. But I got to roll out here. I can hear a commotion behind me.
yeah. No, I totally respect. We might do no game this week. We'll probably just tap out because we have been going for a while, like I said. If that works with you, Hayde, we'll postpone this one for another time. But
No worries.
Brett, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Where can the people find your stuff? Because I know you're doing a lot of work with some guitar lessons and stuff like that, and a lot of stuff in music. So where can the people find your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I love sports, but I'm a music educator and performer as well. So you can find me on Instagram, Brett Roselle Music, and you can find my website, brettroselle.com. Search my name into the old Google bar or any social platform, and you can come across my content. And if you want to learn the guitar, hit me up.
Love it. Hayden, where can the people find you?
At Hayden Barton, Hayden_Barton on Instagram and Twitter, and at HBart13 on TikTok.
And you can follow me on Instagram at Jevon.Lefebvre, on Twitter at JevonLefebvre. Find everything for the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at LeftSideHeavy_. Subscribe to the YouTube Left Side Heavy, where you can find full episode pods and leave a rating and review. Really helps grow the show anywhere you get your podcast. And we will see you next week with a episode on Wednesday and a Kickback and Relax on Friday. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Peace.